Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychic Engineer podcast. And we are starting this year with a very special guest who this is why I love this work. And we've just been talking about it that, when you step onto your soul's path, you connect with very like-minded people who are also taking the brave steps to really follow their soul's mission. And Melanie Gabuten is one of them. And I'm so glad I connected with her. She is a breathwork specialist and has just taken a big leap of faith. And she will be sharing everything about her path and what breathwork has meant to her and how she has come on to this journey. And I hope you take a lot from this episode. If you have been feeling the call to step into breathwork or even just follow your soul's mission, this episode is definitely for you. So welcome, Melanie. I am so happy to have you here.
I'm happy as well. And I'm so glad, like I told you, it's so beautiful with communities that we support each other. And I was so happy that you asked me to be here and talk about it. So thank you, Avi.
No problem. So I guess we should say that I'm currently in the UK, but Melanie is actually currently in Gothenburg. Am I right?
Yes, I live in Gothenburg. I was raised here since I was one. I was actually born in London.
Wow, amazing.
My parents lived in London for years and then they decided to move to Sweden because my father, he worked for a Swedish company. So I lived in London. I was born there. I lived there for a year and then we moved to Gothenburg, Sweden.
Amazing. Very nice. I love that connection already. So whenever we start a podcast episode, because since I'm a intuitive reader, I always like to do a mini card pull. And I have some oracle cards in front of me.
Wow.
And I want to just see what comes up as the energy for this episode. So let's have a quick look. Okay. So a card has come out. Oh, it's actually perfect.
Really?
It says inhale, exhale.
Wow. The universe is talking to us.
It really is. Wow. There's like so many cards in there. And, to get that one
Yeah.
is quite amazing. I love that. This is such a synchronicity
Yeah.
to be able to see what this card means to us. I guess we'll just go from here. Let's start off with talking about the breath in itself. What exactly is breath work? I know it's been kind of a bit more like a buzzword. Everyone's hearing about it and the benefits people have been highlighting, and I've really wanted to dive into it as well. But let's start off with what exactly is breath work?
So breathwork is conscious breathing. So if you ask people, have you done breathing before? Of course. I mean, we breathe all the time. We wouldn't live if we wouldn't breathe. And conscious breathing is different. It's a practice. I have to just tell this also because it's a practice that has been used for thousands of years. I mean, they've used it in India. They've used it in Asia. I mean, shamans in Central America, South America, I mean, in Africa, everywhere. And before, in the past, we didn't have medicine. So that was one of the usage of breathwork to regulate the body instead of using medicine, and in different cultures to get connected with spirits and but in the Western world, breathwork has been used to regulate the nervous system and used in trauma work. And most of people are using breathwork for regulating the nervous system because there's a lot of stress in the world, anxiety, stress. I mean, everyone I see every time I have a breathwork class, I always ask them when they check in, so what's your status? Oh, I'm stressed. I have a headache, I'm so tired, etc., etc. And it's a direct way to get to the nervous system in a quick way by regulating it with conscious breathing. So that's like the basic thing about breathwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say a lot of people are perhaps, I guess we know the answer to it, but perhaps are breathing not in a conscious way? How is it hindering them? Whether we've always heard these phrases like shallow breathing or, some breathes like maybe through their mouth open or this and that. How is that impacting their nervous system?
Most people, we have this primary breathing muscle called, I'm trying to say this in English, diaphragm. Is that correct?
Diaphragm, yes, yes.
Yes. So it's a big, oh, sorry, it's a big muscle that we never use. We actually use the second breathing muscle, which is here. The diaphragm is lower. So when we are breathing from the second
Mm,
breathing muscle here, we breathe and it stresses the body.
mm,
And it also makes us more tired because we don't get enough oxygen into our body. So, when you're stressed and you're not conscious about your breathing, it's just up here. But when you use your diaphragm and when you're more conscious and you use the muscle, which is the diaphragm, and it's a different way of breathing because you get more oxygen to your body. It's a way of being, sometimes when I mean, I'm a part of this world. Of course, I also breathe like this. But when I reflect and I'm like, oof, I'm breathing from this part, I just take a few deep breaths for a minute and then to just, regulate the whole system. So it's so easy. It's such an easy way. It's for free. It's not medicine. I mean, you don't have to go to someone to show you. You have the tool yourself just by breathing in a conscious way.
Yeah, beautiful. It's, I think I've started noticing it more so simply because when I started meditating and I was never even aware that I was breathing like more shallow, or
Mhm.
when you sit that way, I guess it kind of like you're not getting as much air in anyway. It's just everything is impacted how you are taking the breath in. And it's only when I sort of started meditating and looking at why am I breathing this way, And then you start kind of going deeper into what is the cause. And often I've realized it's because I've been too much in my head and thinking about things that I'm not realizing that I'm breathing in sort of shallow way,
Yes. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And the beautiful thing with the breathwork is that when you look at emotional reactions,
Hmm.
trauma responses, they are stored as physiological patterns rather than conscious thoughts. So when you breathe, it actually gives access to the nervous system to signal the brain that you're safe, that you're calm. And so the brain is it constantly interprets the body signal in an easy way of describing it. So a way of giving the brain the signal that
Hmm.
you're safe. So, I mean, you can go to therapy, talk about it, of course, and intellectually, you understand the problem. You can say, oh, okay, so this is the problem. That's why I'm in this way. But still, the body is giving signals to the brain that it's not safe, even though you're talking about it. But when you breathe, in a conscious way, the breath is giving a different signal to the brain. And when you're doing it during a long period, you can calm the whole system and regulate. But I also want to say that breathwork is not about we have to be calm and everything is beautiful and whatever. Because sometimes you can walk around and not realize that you have anger, that
Hmm.
you have traumas, you just, walk around life and think everything is fine. And then you go do breath work and suddenly you feel sorrow. Because sometimes people are like, I thought I was going to feel calm and, it would be beautiful. But, it regulates emotional releases. And then suddenly you just feel a lot of things, it releases things that are stored in our body, physiological things. But I also have to say that, I mean, everyone is individual, of course. And for me, I had to go to therapy and this to work with it both, talking and, breathing a lot. For me, it worked. And for someone else, maybe just talk therapy works. If for something,
Yeah.
just breath work. I mean, we are so individual. So I'm not saying that one way is the right way. I mean, there are so many different ways to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great point, which is actually the topic of this conversation as well, that why talk therapy isn't enough. And the reason why I wanted to um, kind of talk about that detail as well, as because I remember when I had therapy, and which was more like, kind of talking about what's going on and kind of sharing what's been playing on my mind. But what I felt was that I would share those things, but often I couldn't even put into words certain feelings that I was having. And sometimes the underlying issue, I felt like I was trying to get to bottom of something, but there wasn't really a bottom of
No.
something. And that's when I had started looking at kind of more energy work and going more into sort of Reiki healing and that sort of your body. And I suppose breath work comes directly into it. And you mentioned about safety and introducing that calmness within you. These other modalities kind of touch the body aspect, which is often neglected in talk therapy.
Mm.
And but I think you've touched on a very great point about trauma responses. When we're walking around, we don't even realize that we have underlying anger, underlying stress, and perhaps because we have been so used to it, so we assume that it's like a normal state that we're in.
Yeah. And I think the body it's so beautiful and loving
Yeah.
towards you, even though it's giving signals in a bad way. I can give an example. So my mother, she had a lot of what we call it, psychosomatic illnesses. Is that what it's called? Yes, we call it psychosomatic illness. Yeah. And even though you can see it from a perspective that it's a bad to have illnesses, but it's the body's way of giving you love, signal. It's so intelligent, the body. And I always look at my mother and think that I don't want to go the same path. Because
Yeah.
I know that she had a lot of stress and anxiety and, problems she was thinking about. And it gave her all of these diseases that eventually she passed away in a very, for me, young age. And so many things that I've been working with from last year is to stop the patterns within our ancestral line, both my mother's line and my father's line. And I think when it comes to the soul path, we're talking about it. For me, I realized in 2024, because between 2021 and 2024, I lost both my father and my mother. And it was one of the most spiritual paths in my life. I've always been connected to death. I don't know why. It has always fascinated me. And I understand why, because when I lost my mother in 2024, it was like the universe whispered through energy that now is the time to do your path, because I thought I was ready. I think it was 12 years ago when I had a divorce. I was married and I got divorced. And I did all the right things. I went to Bali. I was away for 3 months. I was in Thailand doing yoga. I was eating raw food. I was, enlightened and everything. And I thought I was ready to do my own thing. But it was like the universe said, no, you're not ready yet. You have to go through some other stuff. And I had the opportunity to do work within leadership, as a manager, and it has of course helped me to work with the leadership bit for myself and for life. But the last 3 years of my life was actually the last bit of it, when I was losing my parents. From outside, people would say, oh, that's so sad, losing your parents. It's the root
Yeah.
of who you are. But it was actually meant for me to lose them when I was 44, because that's when my path started. Everything. There were so many signals from the universe that I just followed and led me to sitting here with you. So I can see the bigger picture. When I was 34, when I got divorced, one of the reasons why I got divorced was because in the marriage, I realized that it was also like a signal from the
Mm.
universe and from within me that I was not supposed to have children in this life. It's a very sensitive topic, I know, because there's a lot of people who has a problem to conceive. And I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts that can be given to a human being, to give life into this world. But I just had this strong feeling that in this life, Melanie, you were not supposed to have children. And it led for my divorce because I thought I wanted to have the house, the car, the Volvo, the package of a marriage. Something was just, no, you're not. This is not what you should do. And now, 12 years later, I understand because I'm supposed to put all energy on myself to stop all the patterns that have been given through the generation, through my mother and my father. And maybe in the next life, I will have children again because I know that I've had it in my former and for past lives.
Yeah.
And I can see I can't see the whole picture because I think you never do. But I understand today why I had to go through those years. And I am supposed to do breathwork, meditation, astrology, and whatever comes into my path to connect with people like you, Avi, and to connect and bring people home to themselves.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing such a vulnerable and very heart-led story. I think a lot of people will connect with that too. Such a brave path. I have to start off by saying you do not look 44. You look great.
It's my genes.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your spiritual path as well and what has led you to here. Those are some incredibly sort of like life altering things that happen to people. All of those have kind of happened to you and you've gone through them. And to be able to say with such elegance and poise, like how that was meant to be, it's truly really, really inspiring to see. So thank you for sharing that path as well. One thing I wanted to touch on, well, there's several questions, but I'll start off with the one thing, which actually at the beginning of the podcast, I wanted to ask you, what are your big three? Because you touched up on astrology.
Yeah.
I love finding about people's big three, um, just because it tells us a little bit more about you.
So I'm a Sun Capricorn. So it's Capricorn season now. Yay!
Yeah. Yes, season.
And my moon sign is Taurus and my ascendant is Leo.
Wow, amazing.
So many people who doesn't know me think I'm very, the fire energy. When in fact, in my private life, I love to hang out with myself. I do have a boyfriend, but he's a Virgo and he's like me. I mean, he loves having his own me time and me. I could never be with someone who's like very like this in a relationship. I would be suffocated. And yeah, so the force I'm showing outer world is like a really Leo energy. And when people get to know me, they're like, I didn't know that you were like this because I'm a very typical Capricorn / Taurus energy.
Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, a lot of earth energy in your big three.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
a
that's
lot of, sorry for interrupt, and a lot of planets in Virgo. So I have like a triangle in my chart in
yeah.
earth signs. So I've been working a lot with water emotions because I've had problems with emotions and talking about emotions and things. So I've been working a lot. I had to because I'm very practical as a person. So both during my mother's and father's death, I was like coordinated, with the funeral.
Mm,
Or it was like an organization. It was like a project for me, like a
yeah.
typical earth sign. While my brothers, my nieces, they were like having emotional breakdowns, and I was like the one who organized everyone, And it's only now, I mean, it was 2024. My father passed away 2021,
Right.
mother 2024. It's only now when I've been
Mm,
grieving a lot that I've been grieving in a way that you're supposed to, being sad, crying, and feeling. And I had problems with that before.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Wow. It's sounds like it's been quite a sort of a heart chakra opening
Hmm.
through the grief that are you by any chance eldest daughter?
I have an older brother, but I'm a middle child. But I'm like the oldest, you know.
Oldest.
It's like a cultural thing, the oldest daughter, she manages everything in the Filipino culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I totally resonate with that because I come from Indian culture and I've also been the sort of like, kind of similar to you where you kind of go through life being the strong one,
Yes.
always making sure that everyone is okay and it often doesn't really give you time to really fully let those things that have been within you to really let them flow out in a safe way,
No.
which is also what I found through stepping onto my path and going into Reiki healing and, going into holding space for others. I realized actually this is, and actually just even crying, because, like I often felt like, okay, like, cry for a little bit, but then I'm like, okay, now time for business, need to get things done,
Yes.
and it often was such a quick way to to move through certain things, but really those things required a lot of time, and not in obviously I'm not going to say like in the same way as you, the way you've been through, but any level of grief kind of leaves a sort of mark on you, which only opens up in layers after years of what that has caused, and in some ways I felt a lot more like, the hard shell that I had around me kind of just started melting away and I kind of started adapting to my true nature. We just talked about astrology and, it's kind of, you're talking about the natal chart and what you represent and kind of adopting more of that, but also letting in other signs in as well so that you can kind of pick their qualities to see how can you embody that aspect of you because we have all the signs within us within our chart. um it's just that how do we go and adapt more of those as well so we can become more whole.
Yeah. And also, if we would talk about breath work,
Mm,
I I started to meditate more than 20 years ago because I've always had these jobs, as a manager, and it was being stressful and everything. And it was actually a workmate who recommended me. And it was on during the time when we had like these, what you call the CD players.
okay.
Yeah, and she gave me a CD and she said, I think you should listen to this to, if you're feeling stressed. And I just thought, what is this? Because it was a body scanning meditation.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, give this 3 months and we'll see what happens. And I realized that I was doing this body scan for like 6 months and started to meditate by myself. And I just felt different because the world was different. I mean, do you understand when the inner world is different,
Yeah.
changes the outer world? I didn't even know. I just realized after 6 months, I'm like, why is the world different? And I was like, because my inner world is different. And I was hooked.
Yeah.
The thing is, between 2021 and 2024, I was not doing anything that was good for me.
Yeah.
I didn't do so much meditation. I didn't go to the gym that I usually do. I didn't eat properly. I mean, life is life. I mean, you go through those period as well. And I did realize that this is not good, but I did prioritize my sleep because I needed to sleep because my mother was sick. After my dad's passing, she was sick. And you know how it is in our culture. You take care of your parents. And
Yeah.
I mean, we have this thing in Sweden where someone can come to the house and take care of the older. But my mom was like, I don't want anyone to take care of me. So you have, yeah. So it became me. So like, the oldest daughter, I had my work and I had to go to my mom before work, after work and everything. And so after my mother's passing, I just said, I have to get back to the body again. I have to go back to the source that I found through meditation. Because I always tell people through the source, I get intuitional answers. during those years, I just, I was in this job, going home mood all the time, take care of my mother. So when my mother passed away, I went to this center, C. Center, and through them, I also did my training, breathwork. And I started to go to these guided meditations. And I also found breathwork through them. And for me, the breathwork became like an upgrade of the meditation. And I was like, wow, the combination of both meditation and the breathwork was like really a wow thing for me. And it has gradually, I mean, from 2024 until now, I've been really, really doing a lot of work with myself during 2025 because I no longer had, it feels wrong to use the word, but I had an obligation, to take care of my father, my mother. And when I lost them, 2025 really became taking care of myself. And I came back to my body again and the source. And I also need to say, because some people ask me about how I do connect, with the universe. And I say, it doesn't have to be like with other people that you see pictures or visuals or some of you hear stuff. I don't. I just, through meditation and breathwork, I have learned to separate my own thoughts or if it's a signal from something divine. So I get thoughts or like a feeling, but I have learned to separate like, aha, this is from the source
Yeah.
and I have to follow it. And it doesn't have to make sense. And people, I mean, we do like when it's safe and, when we like to know what's happening next. But the source are giving you indications, ideas, it pokes. You just have to do it. If it keeps on poking, you have to do it. And you don't have to know what will happen next because it's just the right path. And yeah, that's the only thing I can say. And it's through meditation and breathwork that I keep on, connecting to this source. And you can use the word God, universe, or whatever. It's just something I just feel within me.
Yeah. No, beautifully said. I think meditation or breath work or, what sort of any sort of modality that connects with you is really about bringing yourself back to you so that you can hear the intuitive guidance that has always been there. Due to all the noise, it has been kind of clouded, and connect back to source through meditation. It's actually what I did as well when I felt like I don't know what to do next. I'm in the unknown. Steps are not clear. We're trying to think through the mind. What is going to come into my life next? I just want to know. And this, needing that certainty to feel safe. But often the answer really is to quietening things within you. And like you mentioned, what your inner world, how your inner world is, it creates what happens outside and manifests as our 3D reality. And really, when you quiet your inner world and listen to the guidance there, the outward would then change, which is, we often think it's the other way around, changing our physical reality.
Yeah.
When we feel not good, let's just move to this place. But then you realize that things kind of follow you in
Yes.
those spaces, places, situations where you have changed the outward reality, but those repeat unless you heal it through within yourself, going to the deepest part of you that is, repeating that pattern. Unless you heal it, the outward just doesn't really change.
No. And
Yeah.
also, I think it's important that there's a lot of people that are very controlled and do have a lot of trauma responses by overworking, and stuff like that. I've been overworking my whole life. And when you do stop, and when you do meditate or when you do breath work, I mean, it can be quite messy as well. I mean, the voice that might come can be quite loud, it can be very dark. And like I said before, our body is so intelligent and is talking to us all the time. And even though it's hard, I mean, it's up to you as an individual to do something about it. Either if you need to seek professional help to do something about it, because I mean, I think people are so scared also because when you do talk about breath work or meditation, people think it will calm you and it will be silent. But sometimes it's messy, and the messy parts, it's not fun, and you avoid it by overworking. You
Yeah.
fill your calendar with other stuff, you drink, you take drugs, you go into all these relationships. I mean, it's different ways of numbing the pain or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
a way of the body to show you love.
100%. One thing I've wondered is, since you mentioned, how you found breath work, and we can see like how it has changed your life. How would you say it helped you kind of now go through this transition from very successful corporate career um, to now kind of, switching to a very soul-led path and actually guiding others to through breath work to follow their transformation? How would you say that, that transition, like breathwork helped that transition in a way?
I was more, like I said, we get so many signals from the source all the time. And the breathwork training came right in the right time. It was like, what do you call it? I always say the word
Syn-
synchronous.
synchronicity,
Yeah,
yes.
because I took the training and I was thinking that I have the hotel business. I've been working since I was 18 in the business. I started as a cleaner, I was a supervisor, housekeeping manager, and the last 3 years I've been working as a hotel manager. So I've always been, the past 20 years as a manager and the past 3 years as a hotel manager. I mean, it's a stressful business, and it's like 24 hours, it's 7 days a week. We're never closed. And I just felt, like I said, after my mother's passing, it was so loud from the source that now is the time to do your work because you're finished with the other work. And in the beginning, I always tried to, intellectualize it. And it took a little bit of time to like, what does the source want to say to me? So I actually told my boss, this was, I think it was in October. No, it was, in October. I told my boss that I think 2026 is my last year at the hotel. I think I'm going to leave in May or June. And she was like, okay. And I really, really love my boss. Been working so good together. And then after I told her, I just felt that it was wrong. It felt wrong because I'm supposed to leave earlier than, May or June 2026. And I just kept on like, what am I doing? And during this time, I was breathing a lot as well. So I think that when you breathe a lot, when you do regulate yourself, when you're more conscious, you're more focused, there was this feeling that I couldn't avoid. It was like suffocating me, saying
Yeah.
that, no, you're not supposed to stay until major. And tried to push it away, but it was just, kept on being bigger and bigger. And I remember in November, it was during a full moon, and it was about, letting go of stuff. And I was supposed to work an evening shift. And I was sitting in the kitchen. I was like, please, universe, please, what am I going to do? Because I love my boss. I don't want to tell her that I'm going to leave her earlier. She wouldn't say no, but I just felt so bad telling her that I want to leave, earlier. And then on my phone, while I was, having a conversation within, my phone rang. And it was my boss. And she was like, hi, I'm calling you because I know that you're coming in late today. And I'm not going to see you because I'm going to leave before you come. And I heard on her voice that there was something. And I was like, well, what's wrong? And she said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to quit my job. And I just heard myself saying, yeah, I'm going to quit if you quit. And she just didn't say that out of the blue. There was a lot of things happening at work.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and having a conversation with the universe saying like, please, what am I supposed to do? And she calls me, she says, I'm going to quit. And I'm like, I'm going to quit as well. So I handed in my resignation. a few days after.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so it's like two different things, like something, of course, connection to the universe, but also that I was breathing a lot. I was more focused. I was more aligned with who I am, what I want, and the feeling. I mean, the feeling couldn't let go of me. I had this feeling for months after I had the conversation with her, and it was just
Yeah.
suffocating me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I was sitting by myself in the kitchen that day, and I was just, how am I going to say this to her? Please help me. And I got that phone call, and I
Wow.
was just, that's why I always like, wow, when you get those, connections to universe. And yeah, so from that day, I just handed in my resignation, and had this conversation with my boyfriend. I said, I just don't feel it's right. And then I didn't tell him that. I told him I have these thoughts about, handing in my resignation. He said, I think you should think about it. And then he came home and I was like, yeah, I handed in my resignation. He said, are you crazy? So what's your plan? And I'm like, I don't have a plan, but the
No.
universe is telling me this. And he's like, oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. And
Wow. Yeah. That was such a perfect example of, when you ask the universe for help and it will always listen, and,
yeah,
the universe is always there for you. Maybe in the really, interesting ways, but it is always going to help you get to the outcome that you want.
yeah, when the right time is there, because I've asked so many times for things, like for things I want in a survival mood, and you never
Yeah.
get the answers you want. I mean, then the universe gives you another answer, which is another answer, and you're like,
Yeah.
why? And then you realize afterwards, like, aha, okay, I understand now. So in a way, when I got that phone call, when I handed in my resignation, I knew that, okay, I just need to follow the path, because
Yeah.
it is what I'm feeling is right. And I just follow the path now. Because I used to think that I should, that I would take this path earlier, but the response from the universe were
Yeah.
always different until now. And now the universe keeps on telling me you're ready and you're on the right path.
Amazing. Amazing. I think, yeah, it's whether you're, we often like some people are sort of, have different senses that they are more attuned to, like clair cognizant,
Yeah.
clair sentient, clair audient,
Yeah.
and this is, and, especially whether you are on the spiritual path or kind of not really, even that much believing into it, kind of sharpening those senses and knowing which one is the one that is suited to you is so beneficial, because it helps you make those decisions with conviction and trust
Mhm.
within yourself. Just like how you just said, I had this, I needed to do this. I had this voice within me to be able to do that, and they take those steps. I think honing those senses within you, whether that is through meditation, breath work, or whatever modality suits you, is really, really the key on this path if you are going to step onto doing something
Mhm.
that your soul is calling to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to ask if you are comfortable with what can a small breath work practice look like. Some listeners can take away that
Mhm.
sort of practice, if they want to do like sort of mini practice. What would that look like when they're feeling a bit nervous, want to calm their nervous system before a presentation? Maybe they have a job interview or something like that. Is that something a breathwork practice can help with?
Yeah, of course. So I usually use the double inhale with an exhale to work with. And it's because you do breathe in a lot of oxygen, and oxygen gives you a lot of energy and focus, of course. And when you do the exhale, it signals the nervous system to calm down. So it's the practice that gives you both energy, focus, and then also the regulate the nervous system to feel calm.
Yeah.
So the double inhale, if I just try to explain it in a way. So the first breath is about to fill the lungs and the stomach about 80%. And the second inhale, 20% into the lungs. So it can be like, and then exhale. So when you do the first inhale, so through the lungs into the stomach. So the stomach is like a balloon. And the second one is up here in the lungs again. And it's like, and then exhale. So when you do the inhale the first time, like I said, you do breathe a lot of oxygen. And the second one is actually the 20%. You have something in the lungs called, I think it's in English, alveoles, and it's lung sacs, and you open them up fully the second inhale. So the oxygen can go into the blood easily. And when you do the sigh, when you exhale, you signal the body to relax, to calm, to be calm. And when you go to some breathwork classes, they do a lot of sound. I mean, if you're a first timer, you might think, what are they doing when they do the vibration? And it's because the vibration signals the vagus nerve. It's actually the longest nerve, and it tells the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system, to take it easy, to calm down. The first time you breathe, it can be a bit complicated, and it feels like, 80%, 20%, and then you do a breath that takes time. But it's a circular breathing. So when you breathe, it should be because when you're a first timer, you can be, it's like, but think about it as a circular breathing, and you don't have to analyze if it's 80-20 or if it's 70-30, as long as you try to breathe in most of it, the first breath, and then the second, and then sigh out. And then I also do breath holds in the classes, because you work with a tolerant to hold carbon dioxide in the body.
Yeah.
And it regulates the heart rate, and it calms the nervous system by doing it as well. And less breath per minute. And I mean, it stops the way you breathe. So when you do breath holds, it's also good. But if you want to do a really, really easy one, and this is really good before going to bed, is just breathing through the nose, actually. And you can just count 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. So you just breathe. So when you do 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and you can try to do 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And there is actually on Spotify, if you search for coherence breathwork, it's like a bell, and it's a bell. You hear the bell after 5 seconds. So you can do breathing 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out through the nose. And when you do that in the evening, calms the nervous system, and it's easy to go to bed.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm definitely going to be trying out those practices tonight, for sure. And it's so interesting about breathing through more so your diaphragm to get more oxygen in, and kind of, how it can lead to deeper relaxation as well as just calmness. Thank you so much for sharing those tips as well. We are just getting close to the end of the episode, actually, but I wanted to say this has been such a pleasure. I have loved getting to know your path, and that I'm sure the listeners are going to be taking in the breathwork practices as well. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your work too. So people want to find out more about you, your classes, what you do, what's the best way to reach to you?
So I do have an Instagram account. I don't have websites. It will be later on, but the Instagram is Melanie Gabuten .se. And yeah, so most of the things when it comes to breathwork, meditation, astrology, I'll put up there. Like I told you, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I think it's so beautiful when we connect and reach out and get this kind of information to our community. It's beautiful. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Great pleasure. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.